I think we've begun, Toby. I think.
Tom, it's good to see you. Why don't we kick off?
Yeah, of course.
This is Toby O'Connor from Coinlectables, CEO of Coinlectables, and it's a great privilege to be online today with you with Tom Fell from SPINK. And this is the second time we've been able to collaborate with SPINK. The first time was around a fantastic coin project, Henry III coin with a video, and it was just a lot of fun, and that generated a lot of excitement. And this is very this is a lot of fun as well to be working with you on the second project around these photographic fusion NFTs, DOTs, and we'll spend a few minutes with everybody today just going through what that project is. But Tom's a specialist at SPINK and has been leading the project from that side, and knows a lot about the origin of how this all has come together, and it's a great opportunity to discuss that a little bit. And I think at the center of it, Tom, really is Frank Fischbeck, this wonderful photographer who freelance photographer, I believe, who had an opportunity to create some extraordinary images around intimate images, frankly, around the Munich 1966 conference with the Beatles. And maybe a few comments on Frank and how that came to be.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Frank and the timing of these photographs are what make them so special. Frank, through the kind of skill of being a photographer, appreciating opportunism, learned of the Beatles' arrival at their hotel in Munich, and kind of camped out downstairs in the car park, started taking a few snaps of them, introduced himself, because he was a very charming, gregarious person, managed to blag his way into their hotel room, and there he kind of became a kind of trusted member of their entourage almost. Totally assimilated and became part of the group, just hung out with them very casually in their hotel room, and that's where he got these amazing candid photographs. You see Paul McCartney playing around with a piece of fruit, and Ringo Starr with this amazing funky 60s shirt on, grabbing a camera and taking a picture of Frank Fischbeck. They're basically very playful images that we all know the Beatles. I'm a massive fan of the Beatles, and from all the video footage you've seen of them, they're a playful, characterful bunch. You don't often see kind of studio quality photographs of that, particularly in private. So the special thing here is that Frank Fischbeck was able to capture that, and they're just fantastic images for anyone who either likes photography or, like me, likes photography and loves the Beatles. They're just a real winner. And then, of course, the timing. It's 1966. It's their final tour. So I think this was one of their first stops was in Munich, and it would go on and finish up in San Francisco in Candlestick Park, which was their last paid performance. So you're seeing the end of an era. You're seeing the end of Beatlemania, kind of end of the 60s. And it's not long after that tour that they do their famous rooftop concert that I'm sure everyone's now seen in the recent Get Back documentary on Disney. So it's a really important time in history, really important time for the Beatles, and some super photographs.
Well, I think that's right. It is history, isn't it? It's proper memorabilia. I grew up loving the Beatles. I had the vinyl records and that kind of stuff. That's probably one of my first ones. And that being the final tour, and Munich's a special place to do those concerts in, and the Circus-Krone-Bau, is a special environment. And you're absolutely right. I think what people find interesting, alongside, of course, the music, is the opportunity to understand what the guys were like, right? When the guys had their
Absolutely.
downtime and when they were running around, and what did they get up to? And you use that word playful. I think that's absolutely right. And you look at the pictures, the photographs, and you get that feeling. And I think there are photographs, and then there are photographs which, they're photographs where people feel rigid, they feel posed, right? But these aren't that. They're in total comfort. They're just being themselves, and that obviously goes to your comments around how Frank was able to somehow spend that much time with him in those kinds of settings. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually what's quite exciting about the NFT format is you'll see from the last two lots of our auction are a group of images where Frank was able to capture a series of images of them performing. And they're quite similar images in a way, but they capture a moment in time. But what we're able to do with the NFT is string them together and kind of animate them in a way. So you see them moving and performing with one another. The NFT aspect of that and the digital asset that we've managed to create really adds another kind of animated element, and you get a sense of being there. Whereas they're only still images when you string them together like that. It's quite a special kind of impact, I think.
And how did you come across the actually getting the images from Frank and developing that relationship? And then it's really interesting what you've done. I mean, we'll spend a couple of minutes going through the pieces, but it's interesting how you thought about laying them out across the 5 Fusion photographic DOTs. But how did you come across Frank, and how did you develop that relationship and think about the way to present them?
Yeah, I believe he approached us in our Hong Kong office, and he's a good client of ours, and then we're thinking about how best to market these images essentially, and with the part of my role as a young specialist within SPINK is to think about new and interesting ways of presenting collectibles, and the kind of NFT market is a really interesting avenue to explore, where especially for us this idea of a fusion NFT, because we're an auction house, we're old and fusty, we were founded in 1666, we like our physical items, but also we're interested in more finite things. So being able to combine the two is a really interesting idea for us. So this presented itself as a perfect opportunity, where we have really fantastic physical items. You've got the limited prints and negatives and things, but you also tie it into this unique digital bundle that we've managed to achieve here. So that it's exciting for us.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, I see a question's popped up here on do the DOTs include the full intellectual property, the digital assets, so the DOT can use it for private and commercial purposes? And I think that's a great question. I think that's that's really goes to part of the value of what the DOT does, the digital ownership token, right? And how we're fusing that, how we're bringing that together with the physical. And as you look at the pieces that we've got an ultra high definition file of the picture, in some cases the video, but it also brings the intellectual property rights and the copyright to the owner. So the owner does have the title of ownership, the IP, for private and commercial use. And I think that's very explicitly laid out in terms of how these are being presented in terms of the legal documentation. And this is really where we're going with the Fusion DOT, and working with great partners like yourself, and I think yourself as well, thinking about how this memorabilia can be used beyond the physical in new forms. And that's exactly what we've tried to do. And this is why this is such a fantastic project, right? So it's fun. The Beatles are historic, but then you come across something like these. These are rare images. These are negatives, and then we've been able, through you've been able to present them in a certain way, and then work with us to think about how those can work in the digital format. But the answer to the question is yes. We structured this in a way with the legal documentation and the content on the Fusion DOT to provide the full IP to the digital assets.
The successful buyer of one of these lots will get an assignment of copyright deed with the lot. So for each image, or if it's a single image, you'll have an assignment of copyright deed, and you'll have the negatives. So you can run off prints from the negatives. It's all it's all in your hands at that point as the winner. So so it's really interesting.
It's very powerful.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the advantages of this kind of format is these are great pieces, and sometimes great pieces bought and then they get taken privately and for a long time. I think in this kind of format with the physical and the digital, there's an opportunity for greater use, and that's fun and good. Yeah.
No, that's a really good point.
Tom, I wonder. No, that's a good question. Tom, would you be able to make a few comments across actually the five pieces that we've got here?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the probably my favorite are the first three, just because they're so intimate. They show the. Unfortunately, we don't have Lennon here, but 3 out of the 4 just so at ease and so comfortable, and that's a real testament to the photographer and the position he managed to get himself into in the hotel room as a kind of a trusted member of their entourage, and they're just great. I mean, like I said earlier, we know the Beatles are so characterful, playful, and here they're really showing it. You've got George Harrison picking up a banana. He's wearing a fez. He's clearly enjoying life. Paul McCartney there is tacking into what looks like a plum. He's got his tie undone. He's clearly, he's relaxed here. He's having fun. And I think perhaps the pick of the bunch is Ringo with his cool shades there, and he's picked up a camera and he's pointing it back at the photographer. It's there's so much engagement going on, and I think that's really the essence of the Beatles. They had great music, but the reason for Beatlemania is that they were such likable characters, and they were so engaging with their audience and their fans. And you really see it here. You're at the essence of the Beatles, even though you're at the end of their career, pretty much. That's the essence of the Beatles right there. So that to me is why they're so significant and important. And I think we've got a question popped up there.
Yeah, and then just to finish off on the last two, which are cool as well, because you've got a video there, and it's a series of negatives. Very interesting how you put that together.
Yeah, so the last two are a slightly different proposition, because they are lot 4 is a series of performance photographs, which by their nature he probably took a kind of burst of images. So a lot of them are quite similar, but they're very dynamic and quite kind of close up facial, upper third shots of them singing together and on their own. And what we wanted to do, rather than separate them out, is have them as this dynamic sequence. So when you're playing that digital asset that we've created, the video, I think there's a sort of like half a second interval between them, so that we run them together, so you get a sense of them actually performing. So when you watch that video, the frames are quite close to one another, so you can see them actually moving and singing and dancing, and you really get an essence of the Beatles performing, which is exciting. And then the last lot is a kind of overarching, that's a kind of story lot, if you like. So the first few frames of them arriving in Munich, and then some of them, I think, in the hotel room, some of them performing, and then some of them leaving on the train at the end. So that's a kind of snapshot of their time in Munich, which again would have been a shame to break up. And what the kind of digital NFT side of thing allows us to do is to make it a dynamic, moving story, which separating them out single frames would have robbed from that story. So really pleased with what we've been able to do, and it's nice to see that it's had such a good reception.
Yeah, no, it's really, I mean, they're very high quality. There's a question here from the floor in terms of again about the photographer. I think interest in the photographer, and he was a freelance photographer and managed to get into this kind of situation. But I don't know. Is there any other color on Frank and type of work? And
I haven't seen much more of his other work, but he was quite a celebrated freelance photographer in that he got himself into these unusual situations, and it was more kind of photojournalism, I think, that he did. So he had probably the gift of the gab. He was able to get close with important people and take these interesting images. So yeah, I think he's retired these days. But
yeah. I think to be able to get in that kind of position, you certainly have to have a certain personality, right?
You do, yeah.
To be able to engage. You can just look at these pictures here and see he is engaging in a certain way, and I think that's what separates average photographers from really special ones that get these kinds of historic images. But we've got a few questions that are popping up, which is great. Let's see. What is the difference between an NFT and a DOT? So I use the terminology increasingly. We're increasingly at Coinlectables using the terminology DOT, which is digital ownership title, stands for that. Alongside NFT, the NFT market is very large. It includes enormous number of different types of NFTs, and where we've always tried to position ourselves, and I think it's part of hopefully why SPINK enjoying working with us, is just the work around having the substance on the underlying NFT. So we include a whole lot of information on the NFT, and we think that's more appropriately called the digital ownership token. So it's a title of ownership of something, and in that being very explicit in terms of what the rights of that ownership are. And I think it's very different to what you see in a lot of NFTs, where you may or may not, a lot of times not completely clear in terms of what you're actually owning. So we're increasingly calling that the fusion DOT, again, fusing the physical with the digital, but that emphasis around the title of ownership and the rights in that. So all DOTs, in answer to that question, are NFTs, but not all NFTs are DOTs, and we'll increasingly be using that kind of terminology just to differentiate the type of work that we're doing in that space. So I hope that's clear. There's another question there in terms of the auction houses embracing NFTs. We've seen that a lot from Christie's and Sotheby's around different types of artists. And will we see more of this kind of activity in the future? We hope certainly to be doing a lot more with SPINK in the future. But Tom, maybe you make some comments on this as well. But just from my side, we're very much in an exciting phase of developing the art, the art and the collectibles markets, the memorabilia market. There's huge opportunity to be able to share it with more people in different formats, and certainly the digital space is developing very quickly, and that's where we're positioned, and we see a lot of opportunity with sophisticated partners to be engaging with SPINK and hopefully other great partners. But I think it just makes sense for everybody.
Yeah, that's right. If you asked me a question in that period, I'm sorry if I didn't catch it. There was a slight connection problem. But for auction houses like ours, it makes total sense to be kind of diversifying like this, and having partners like Coinlectables is fantastic, because they totally understand what it is we're trying to do. We love physical items. We've been dealing with them for years, and finding a new way to approach the sale of physical items is extremely exciting. And there's such a fresh collecting base in the kind of NFT and DOT space, and it's exciting to bring new products to that market. So while there is that enthusiastic collecting base, we'll always be interested in kind of exploring new ways to bring our collectibles to market. This is a really exciting opportunity, a successful partnership with Collectibles, and hopefully there's more to come.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Tom. I think that's right. I think you mentioned it before. The SPINK's been around a few more years than Collectibles, and obviously has done some extraordinary things over the decades, centuries around collectibles and memorabilia and stamps and everything else. And I think we're in a very exciting phase here where there are new communities, new fan bases, new segments of society that are really interested in engaging in the space, and the digital medium is definitely one way to do that, and to be able to marry the two together is very exciting. And when you look at the scope of memorabilia and collectibles that are out there, and you can see the playfulness of these pictures we've got here versus more ceramics, which we do a fair amount of, or other forms of art. There's just so much scope to apply this technology to physical items and provide the title of ownership, comfort, the provenance, as well as the enjoyment. And what we're doing around the DOT is essentially putting that information onto the blockchain. That we're creating metadata which goes onto the blockchain. It's immutable, you can't change it. And it is going to give a lot of comfort to people, to new communities coming on board, and provide new opportunities in terms of how people can use and enjoy it. And I think sophisticated partners like yourself, like others, are seeing that opportunity. And where we'll be in 6 months and a year is going to be very different to where we are now. But we know this is the direction the marketplace is going. So it's a great project to be on. Yeah,
and at SPINK we're incredibly enthusiastic about selling original items. That's why we've been successful. We have a big client base who appreciate physical, tangible, original items such as these. I mean, there's so many mass-produced items on the market these days. You could go to IKEA and buy a table if you wanted that 1,000 other people have. But here you have something original and unique. And what people really like is the idea of ownership of something unique. And this is where something like Collectibles and NFTs come in, because you have those irrefutable rights. You know you own the thing, and it can't change. It's written into the blockchain, like you say. And that's an interesting take on ownership, and it's exciting to explore.
Yeah, and in terms of how people can actually acquire these pieces, obviously SPINK have physical auction houses, run physical auctions. You also have digital online. You have SPINK Live, and this particular auction is on SPINK Live, and potential buyers can go to SPINK Live and look at these pieces and bid. And you can also go to coinlectables.art, and you can bid for the pieces on there. You'll see the descriptions are the same across both the sites. On the SPINK site, it's sterling that you can bid, and on the Coinlectables Metamall site, it's in BNB that you can bid. So you've got a good choice there in terms of being able to access the pieces on the Metamall site, on the Coinlectables site. It's fairly straightforward. You click on to the images there, and you'll be able to see the descriptions of what's on each DOT, and you will be able to go into the auction part of the site, which you'll find on the Fusion crossover DOTs, and be able to bid. So the auction finishes tomorrow on the SPINK side at 11 a.m. I believe, Tom.
That's right.
And on our site, it will close a bit before that.
Yeah. So yeah, I believe the bidding on your site will close just before, and then we'll switch over to the SPINK Live auction, and it will count down. It's going to be an e-auction, so each lot will close a minute or so consecutively after the other. And yeah, I hope they're of interest to you guys, and I hope you go over to our sites and have a look at them and enjoy the digital assets that we've created, and that one of you is lucky enough to be successful in owning one of them. It's a very exciting opportunity.
Well, I think there's been a reasonable amount of interest, and quite a few bids have been flying around. So yeah, we'll see how it works going into tomorrow. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun working on this, Tom. We hope the best buyers win. We've certainly seen quite a lot of interest. I'd love to have one of these pieces, I have to say. I think a lot of other people would as well, though. So may the best person get them. But yeah, let's look forward to tomorrow. And I think if there are no more questions, we'll probably just close there. I'll thank you very much, Tom, for your time and for your collaboration on this project. I think for our audience, thank you very much for participating and for some of the questions that are there. And hopefully some people have had an opportunity to look at the sites already, and if not, encourage you to do that. And again, the auction closes 11 o'clock UK time tomorrow. And on the Metamore side, on the Coinlectable side, it will close a little bit before that. But thank you all very much, and Tom in particular, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.